Hello folks, welcome to another daily Bitcoin market analysis by Inspocrypto. Today I'm not going to spend a lot in the initial comment, but we'll have more time tomorrow. At least that's something I hope, because we need to talk about some really interesting stuff, what's happening. One really interesting topic is US Treasury bills and overnight repo used by Tether. Something I never heard before. Usually just, as a bank you can use the overnight repo, but not just every bank can use it. Only Fed members can use it. So it was just a little bit, when you read that Tether is sending US Treasury bonds to the Fed, to the overnight repo, to receive yield, to receive an interest. You ask, well, okay, but that shouldn't be Tether directly then, because Tether is not, as I know at least, a bank. It doesn't have a bank license. It is not part or member of the Fed system. So how is possible that Tether is depositing their US Treasury bonds over the overnight repo? And then I started to think about El Salvador, because you remember what I told you, the program by the Fed, and I even mentioned that it was a joke, but now after reading this article where they are just saying that, hey, they are just buying US Treasury bonds, and now Tether is backed by US Treasury bonds, and they are sending those Treasury bonds to the overnight repo. The first thing I thought it came up to my mind was the program that the Fed has to allow abroad central banks to deposit their US Treasury to get USD instead. You remember? I have mentioned that was about USD versus gold, and the geopolitical streams and trends that we are seeing, for example. If that's the case, and if Tether is using El Salvador, I mean, nothing would surprise me anymore. Really, absolutely. We know that almost Tether's puppets are now in the ministry of El Salvador, working. They are not, they never have seen El Salvador just few years before they started with a Bitcoin hype there, but now they are working in the ministry. That's sometimes where you say, okay, what the fuck? I mean, then I don't need any kind of democracy or something, when you can just put your puppets wherever you want and you don't care. Well, however, El Salvador would be one, at least there's a central bank, that's obviously not a huge one, would be allowed to use US Treasury bonds to send them to the Fed, part of the program, deposit their US Treasury bonds, and to receive USD instead. Now imagine that Tether is doing exactly that. They are just depositing their US Treasury bonds on El Salvador Central Bank, or maybe on a bank of El Salvador that's then sending these US Treasury bonds to the El Salvador Central Bank. I really don't know if it's possible that Tether can directly deal with the El Salvador Central Bank. In my opinion, it shouldn't be possible, but as just mentioned, they have their puppets in different governmental positions now, or at least in the ministries. So if that would be the case, that would be for Tether the cash cow, and would explain a lot of things. Would explain why they don't want to have a full audit, because otherwise you would see where the money is coming. I mean, that's why I just added those sentences to my tweet today. An attestation is completely different to a certified audit. To make it clear, your tax agent would never accept from you an attestation. Never. They always would say, I need this certified audit. Why? Well, because with an attestation, you're working with the data that your client is providing. So if I'm saying, I'm billionaire, without to show you that I'm billionaire, yeah, I have, I can show you some statements of my bank, whatever. I mean, of course, you should check if the bank exists, but if it exists, even on the Bahamas, for example, or in Panama or in El Salvador, and it shows on your statement, hey, you have $1 billion there, then the company that is making your attestation would say, okay, it's fine. That's it. They are only making an attestation based on the data you are providing. They don't have the same access to the data. So they are not going to request the same information on the bank, because it's not necessary on an attestation. That would be necessary on a certified audit. And that's, of course, why, in my opinion, Tether don't want a full audit, because otherwise the auditor needs to have access to all these data from the source, the original source. And that could be a little bit, well, not a little bit, but a big problem for Tether, in case they are doing something that is maybe not that legal, or maybe not that crypto friendly, or whatever. Nobody knows exactly what is happening behind Tether. Nobody knows. I received today the information that Tether is not only working with Deltec, they have another bank I never heard before, but the bank was Cantor. I never heard Cantor just before, but maybe, I don't know. However, so they are using different banks. Bloomberg, I think, or Financial Times, I don't remember anymore, just was saying that Tether was using, yeah, how to say that? Okay, let us be straight. Fake IDs to open bank accounts. I mean, if that's right, I mean, usually that it's crime. So usually I would expect that the Bloomberg article was right. Today, Paolo and some others should be in prison, but nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. Always the question is why. Sometimes I feel like Tether has a hand over it, that it's protecting them every time, because a lot of things are circulating, a lot of rumors, a lot of things, but nothing is happening. Absolutely nothing is happening. At the same time, nobody knows where the money is coming. I mean, they did just a gain of $1.5 billion. With what exactly? Sending US Treasury bills to a overnight repo? With fees? Do you think you can make $1.5 billion in fees in 3 months? I don't think so. I mean, it's like a big fantasy world where nobody knows nothing. Unfortunately. However, that's going to be a very, very interesting thing to know. Maybe one day we will know it. One day we will know what was Tether, who was behind. if they really had the context to Epstein, the father of arbitrage with Bitcoin, where their lawyer, the lawyer management guy of Höckner is his name, for example, knew Epstein from a foundation. Both just were on the management of the same foundation. Maybe just a coincidence. Maybe. A lot, as mentioned, a lot of rumors circulating. And the thing is, with Tether, we have a lot of questions and almost no answers. Almost no answers. And that's usually something that is very suspicious. But it is what it is. However, if they are doing 1.5 billion also trading, manipulating the market, or even driving the markets, playing a little bit the role of a market maker, for example, it would be okay. I mean, what is the role of a market maker, right? The question is, where's the money coming from? Is it a legal source or is it illegal? Or are they using any kind of possibilities to get money? I can imagine if they are using US Treasury bonds to receive fiat instead, and they use all this money afterwards to drive the markets, that would explain a lot of things in my opinion. But however, we need to talk. I also has to make some research when I have more time. At the moment I really don't have any time, that's the problem. So we will talk more about that. You know, I have a big passion for Tether. You know that I don't like Tether at all. For me, Tether is just pure trash and nobody knows and nobody needs Tether. I would love to see Bitcoin as the alternative for Tether, to be the coin, the asset, or Ripple, or whatever, you know, to substitute Tether, but it's not the case. And in my opinion, if Tether goes down, crypto will not see light for many, many years, I guess. Maybe it's just a guess. However, let us talk a little bit what the market is going to make next. You know, we did 25.8, and I have said we will see if we are going back, because this trend line is a fucking magnet. And we did 25.8, something I wasn't really expecting. I expected 25.3. I have said maybe 25.2. But I also said maybe we are not done. Maybe we are going up, retest, fail, and then go down. It's still on the table in my opinion, but that's something we need to check if that matches with the on-chain data out there. So as we see the weights ratio pushed up more. Right now almost at 55. That's really high, but just because in the recent weeks we had almost 60% and up, and that's really high. As I'm using a 30 days moving average, a moving average is using all these data, of course, to show a trend, and the trend is upwards. Usually also indicating, if we take a look, for example, to the volume, it's indicating they are sending more Bitcoins to centralized exchanges. Usually something that's not bullish at all, but we need to see, to be honest. Because, you know about the weights ratio, 30 days moving average, and the 1 day time frame. So we need to see if it works this time, because the last time, I mean, we went up, we declined a little bit. We went up here, like, you know, it was extremely bearish, and instead we declined a little bit. I mean, we are talking from 27 then to 21. We are talking from 25 then down to 19.5, and it's not huge. It's absolutely not huge. And I mean, 31 right now to almost 26. It's $5,000. It's not big at all. So one of the most interesting weights ratios, in my opinion, is the 1 hour time frame, because the 1 hour time frame usually indicates very well what is going to happen what is going to happen in short term. And what we see is that the weights ratio 30 hours moving average is recovering and going back to 90% while the price is pushing up. So in my opinion, once again indicating that the sell pressure should start to go up very soon. And at the same time, if we break 90%, usually that indicates that the sell pressure is going to be much bigger than the buy pressure. And then the price starts to go down in a higher upper pace. So a dump, a nuke, or something like that. Also here we need to see. We can see that the stablecoin reserves on centralized exchanges dumped. But at the same time, we can see those 23,000 Bitcoins that we identified from Coinbase, that just were flew out from the cold wallet of Coinbase. But as mentioned, it's absolutely not clear yet. We need more information what happened there, because it correlates with those 450 millions we received and so on and so forth. It's absolutely, it's Coinbase things. It's not the first time that Coinbase is doing such very strange deals or transactions. So let us go forward and check what the spot exchanges are indicating. So we can see here, for example, we received here 3,329 Bitcoins. At the same time, we had an outflow of 26,000 Bitcoins. We know it was related to Coinbase. At the same time, we had an outflow of 162 million US dollars. Few hours later, another 170 million US dollars outflow and 300 millions inflows. And that's why the net flow of stablecoins looks like, down hard, upwards, up hard. So that's a zero-sum game once again, it's neutralizing it. The big question is why? What's happening here, and where's the correlation to the 26,000 Bitcoin? Something at the moment, I really can't explain at all, because the wallet doesn't have any references, not tagged, so absolutely new, and that's usually very suspicious in my opinion, because even OTCs are not working, creating new wallets every time, just for every single transaction. So it's really, I don't know exactly what happened. And one of the analysts out there on Twitter, IT, he was just mentioning that they splitted those transactions in 100 Bitcoin amounts and sent to different wallets. So it's absolutely not clear what happened there. However, also here nothing to see. So after we received those 3,300 Bitcoins, everything happens in few hours, and now it seems everything is cooling down again. So if we take a look, for example, we can also see that the funding rate, since we went below 27.6, you remember the funding rate declined a lot. Since then it is on an upward trend, indicating they are demanding more longs than shorts. Very volatile, as you can see as well. So it pushed up, then down, then more up, but the trend is clear, and the trend indicates We are in an upward trend channel at the moment. Not the same with the open interest. The open interest, for example, declined here a lot, pushed up, declined a lot, and now pushing up. And something similar is happening to the leverage ratio. So it declined here, pushed up, declined, and now also on this trend, indicating that, yeah, we are right now, the open interest recovered very well, leverage ratio higher compared to the open interest, and the funding rate is lifting up, indicating they are using more high leverage longs, or in general high leverage futures. But at least we can say that the trend is bullish once again, at least bullish what traders are doing. So if we take a look here, we can see they are cashing out once again stablecoins to derivative exchanges. And now let us take a look what happened here related to bitcoins and derivative exchanges. We can see, well, I would say it's neutral. We have a lot of green, but a lot of red here. At least now it looks like they are flipping a little bit, cashing out their bitcoins and less coming in. We need to see what consequences that will have. Yesterday, 180 bitcoins liquidated on the short side and the same on the long side. We can also see here and the funding rate is lifting up, so we are still intact in this upward trend. If we check here, for example, well, not right now, to be honest. That was the upward trend. That's the aggregated funding rate, indicating here's something. We have a deviation here. Now we need to see if that's a short-term one or if really the market is flipping. Open interest, as mentioned, is recovering, and leverage ratio as well. So now let us go and check what the blockchain whispers are indicating. Longs coming in with 1.1 billion. You remember just a few days ago we had less than 1 billion, so almost 200 millions more in shorts. Longs almost the same, maybe a little bit less, but nothing big. 61 to 39 and 59 to 41 on Ethereum. On Ethereum it looks a little bit better, but also very, very bullish. And on Bitfinex, a little bit less shorts. We had 44 millions, now 40 millions, so 10% less. But the longs are not really following. So usually we had, even you remember before we pushed up really hard, 2.7 billions and even more on Bitfinex. We have 2.5 billions and right now holding there, while shorts are not really declining. It's interesting. Let us go forward. So the Kingfisher all leverage, we can check that here, and we see that we have 210 million. That's the maximum liquidation cluster. It's even less, 200 millions. It's on the long side, so indicating, yeah, match very well to the remaining data that we have a market that's more on the long side than on the short side. High leverage, I think we liquidated a lot, yes. And now we have at 27, I mean with 70 millions, we have here a liquidation cluster of, what was that? 70 millions at 27,070. So to go down from here, it would make sense until 27, maybe a little bit lower, 26.9 for example, to liquidate all of them, and then we need to see what's going to happen next. So once again we see how That's Binance, BTC USDT, how they are selling, why the price is not moving at all, aggregated. So all BTC USDT pairs on all remaining exchanges declining. BUSD, you remember I have said, oh, that's strange. BUSD pushing up and doing exactly what the price of Bitcoin is doing. USD started to push up as well. Not big, almost 40 millions here. You can see Bitcoin collateral, what they are doing, and futures. And then tell me who is driving the market. I mean, not big. We are talking here about, but it's doing exactly the same. How is that possible? Maybe only algorithm, maybe, I don't know, but it's absolutely very, very strange and suspicious to see that, to be honest. Binance, that's what we see. I mean, just check what they are doing. It's exactly the fucking chart. It's while aggregated looks completely different. The opposite. Using futures to push up, supporting it, it seems, also with BUSD, and at the same time they can just sell more with Tether. We can see here Bitfinex. Bitfinex also after a big distribution started to lift up, nothing big. Bybit declining more. Coinbase also flipped, so that explains the USD, you know, because they did exactly the same. We see that Bitstamp started relatively early. We see that, well, at the moment Kraken buying, I don't know, that whatever it is, but they are also lifting up from here. They distribute it. And Gemini not doing anything. So if we check now, yeah, we can start with the entities. Retail pushing up more, pushing up more. This guy's pushing up more. This guy's declining. This guy's pushing up more. Really interesting that market maker entities, but only because they are declining here. And well, here nothing new. Now let us take a look what is happening to stablecoins. That would be very, very interesting to see, because usually I would expect something huge, but no. I mean, those 4 billion versus 3 billion. Yes, we received here 2 billions, but at the same time we had here 1 billion outflow and here another 1.7 billion outflow. I mean the problem in this chart here is we don't know if they are using those stable coins here, for example, to buy spot, to send to derivatives, or just to buy or to use it for yields on DeFi. Nobody knows it. However, if we take that, here's the data that shows us what they are doing with spot, it would indicate they are pushing up the price and now here taking profit and taking out this money now from here. So would look like a little bit like, you know, distribution, distribution rally. So push up while we can sell, and when we are done we will go down once again to look for the next local dip or whatever. Okay. The market maker sent 3,000 bitcoins to centralized exchanges, it seems. Yeah, 3,150, and an hour later we had the withdrawal of 23,000. It wasn't part from miners reserves pushing up more. So we can see here that, wow, Bitfinex has a really high weights ratio, the same with Bitstamp. We can see that Bybit weights ratio is also pushing up, and the same with Kraken. Also very interesting. that could indicate where the sell pressure is coming from. At the same time, we can see that fundings are reducing their holdings of Bitcoins, indicating that institutional demand is shrinking. We can also see that even it stabilized the spot volume versus derivative volume ratio keeps declining, indicating that the futures volume is rising compared to the spot volume, and that's almost it. Yeah. So on Coinbase, we see that we still have, it's intact. The protection walls between 24 and 25 are still there. They didn't add more liquidity at 30K. Instead, we can go directly to 35 when it comes to the liquidity upwards. We can see that everything here until 22, it's well protected. So we need to see, usually it's the wall. So wall means that nobody wants to go down because they know if I want to make a dip, that's the maximum dip I can get, because otherwise I need to sell a lot of Bitcoins. Usually then it wouldn't work. So they buy here and they go up and sell on upper levels would be one, or they are waiting here just to buy all, you know, to absorb as much as they can here as well. That's two different scenarios. So if we take a look on Bitstamp, they are waiting at 28.7 and, well, at 30,500. They, for example, here absorbed a lot between 25.9 and 26.1, but they are still waiting here. So maybe the whole thing will decline afterwards, go to 25, and that could be maybe the local bottom. If we take a look also on Binance, we can see they removed here some volume. Instead, they shifted more upwards. It seems hitting 29.5. So at the moment, 28 would be our magnet if we, you know, based on the gamma walls. Otherwise, on Binance would be absolutely okay to go down between 25.5 and 25, but also even lower, hitting 22, because they are here. It looks like a little bit, to be honest, as they would be well prepared to go even deeper. So BTC BUSD, they have now a protection wall at 26.4 or absorbing wall and 25.5. Also here indicating they should expect to have another leg down. On Bitfinex, 25.4. Okay, that's relatively new here. 25.4, 25, and even lower. On the same time, you can see how much sell orders we have until 32. OKEX, nothing. Kraken, I guess, yeah. Kraken is also waiting between 25.5 and 25, maybe even a little bit lower, and at the same time waiting here at 29.5. So we will see how far they want to go, if 29.5 and then go down once again or not. BitMEX, on BitMEX, nothing happening here. Bybit derivatives, nothing. With USD, now with Tether, also nothing. Now BTC, USDT, Binance Perp, indicating, well, it looks like, you know, you can see what they did just before. I think we can go a little bit more up, hitting 28. before maybe then down. That's something we need to see. BTC BUSD, nothing. Bitfinex derivatives want to short at 27.9. Very interesting. Kraken futures, OKEX futures, and Deribit. And Deribit is also waiting here, 24.3 and 25.3. Yeah, so very, very interesting what they are doing there. Also waiting at 27.8 to short. I guess we will have a 28 before 25. That's my opinion now.